and welcome to Third Eye Thinkers. I'm Michelle Welch.
And I'm your host, Megan Benanti. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm glad to be back. How about you?
Glad to be back.
Yep.
So today we are doing our Tarot birth cards, and I think it's a great thing that we're doing because, Megan, you just had your 20th birthday.
Yeah, something like that. I did have a birthday.
You are actually way too young for those kind of jokes. I'm old enough for those kind of jokes. But actually, so you just had your birthday.
Yes, and Michelle and I are not that far off in age.
So this is a good topic for us.
Yeah. And I live by birth cards. I love these. I do them all the time. So for people.
So I went to a reading with Megan. I've told you guys she's a great reader. So I went and got a reading from Megan not too long ago, and that's one of the first things she did was she did my tarot birth cards for me. And I have to say that I don't always do them, but now every now and then I copy her. And you pick up little cool traits. I always say, I got this from my friend Megan that does my podcast with, we do a podcast together. And so Third Eye Thinkers, and I'll do them every now and then. Mm-hmm. But one of the things is that I got a little overwhelmed with how to calculate it, and that's something we're going to talk about today, is because I would always have to pull out my phone and calculate it. First of all, I'm not great at math, so even adding just simple math, that's just kind of freaks me out. So, but when I went and got my reading, that was one of the first things you did, and you did such a good job of explaining the point of it too, which is something we're going to talk about today.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit, Megan, about why you like using the birth cards.
Well, birth cards are always interesting to me because I actually, in some ways, they're it's like an appetizer. It kind of warms people up. So I can start that and really get a sense of who a person is. Because to me, birth cards are how you apply yourself in the world. And so that's always a good way to kind of get people to relax a little bit. Because a lot of times people will be nervous when they come in. And so we can look at the birth cards. And I have that calculated before they come in. I always ask for their date of birth. Although occasionally I'll get someone who's like, can I just give it to you when I get there? And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to look you up on the internet, I promise.
Right. They think that you're going to, I get it.
Yeah, I would look up their information about who they are.
So that you know how to read them and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got better things to do.
Right, exactly. I'm like,
you actually have a life.
Thank you.
They think that you're going to, it's so funny. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
I know. I didn't either. And
I was like, oh, wait, why would they? I was thinking I'd wait to give it to you because I don't want you to know how old I am. Not that you'd look anything up. I just thought about that. I was like, why would they not want to give it to you? The thing I might do is give you the wrong year.
Right. And a lot of times they won't give me the year. And I'm like, no, I need the year too.
Yeah.
So people are funny. Or they'll just put the year and they won't put the date of birth. I'm like, no. So basically with birth cards, you're going to take the birthday numbers, including the year, and so the full date of birth, and add them together and simplify them down. And this lets your reader know how to apply you to the reading itself. And so how you might handle things, how you might tackle them. So it really is kind of an interesting process. And there are several different ways to calculate. I first got into birth cards, I was looking back at my notes in 2000 when I had bought Mary Kay Greer's book, Tarot for Your... Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. Tarot for Yourself.
Wake up, everybody.
Yeah, I know.
Matt, do you still have your drums there?
And this is a workbook on just personal transformation. And so she had birth cards in that. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So from a psychological standpoint, I wanted to know my whole family and to figure out the dynamics of how we would get along. And
could you say the book one more time? Because I was kind of talking over you when you said the book.
Rammed it into the speaker.
Yeah. What is it again?
Tarot for Yourself by Mary Kay Greer.
Okay.
So, and she published that in 1984. So, doing birth cards has been around for a while. And, but now we have great gadgets on the internet where you can plug in numbers too. And we'll give you some of these website addresses. Yeah. So you don't have to do that math yourself. So you want to share some of what you found when you were looking up on internet for birth cards?
So I like the fact that you can look it up. And in this situation, you're not really doing anything where you're taking anything away. If you do look it up and you use some of the apps or the sites where you plug in the numbers, you're not taking anything away from intuitively or anything like that. Would you agree?
Oh,
From
yeah,
the process.
no, not at all.
There's nothing that's taken from the process. You're just using, a calculator instead of adding it up. Okay. So as long as your internet works and you can get on there and you have those numbers, then it's fine. Some people can just do it so fast in their heads that's going to be faster for them, or in their head, or just calculate those numbers so quickly. I am not one of those people. So really, it was more kind of what you said, that Mary Greer has a way of doing it. And then, of course, you invited me this year to the Tarot School. I say Tarot, you guys, just, here we talk about it all the time. That's not, I don't know if that's the incorrect way to say it, but that's not probably the best way to say it.
I say it both ways,
Okay.
tarot and tarot.
I think the one that you kind of get laughed at the most is probably tarot, which I would never say. I just don't see it that way, but there's not two R's, so I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Like parrot.
I never
if there were
saw
two
that
R's,
like that.
then I might say tarot.
Yeah. Okay.
Overthinking it, right? But anyway, so I say tarot, but I always catch myself now because everybody there said tarot, right? No,
Oh, I don't remember.
everybody. Every time they were talking, I was like, oh, I'm definitely the East Texan here saying it not the right way. Anyway, so we went to the Tarot School. Anyway.
You're too hard on
So
yourself.
anyway, there's this website called tarotschool.com.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all,
The Tarot School.
thank you.
Yeah, it has a the.
You have to have the in front of it. And this particular conference that we went to is the best. I mean, I don't want to say somebody else isn't the best, but it is top notch.
It's really top notch. They get really great speakers, and
So name the people.
they go over the
Ruth Ann
top.
and Wald.
It's Ruth Ann and Wald Amberstone own the Tarot School, and then but they get really top speakers there to present every year, and it always changes, and they really try to stay up to date with the current trends. And then they teach tarot year round, so there are online classes too. But they have a birth card calculator on their website. Yeah, and so if you Google birth card calculator or Google the Tarot School, it'll come up.
Right. So the Tarot School, tarotschool.com, it will come up, and then you go over to the left on their page, on their home page, and it'll say birth card calculator.
Yeah.
They even have a class for it, I think, over there. But you just can go straight to that calculator, and then they have some interpretations once you get your date. You don't have to subscribe or anything to that one. You can just go straight to it, and it's free. Now, a friend of ours, I'm going to call her a friend now.
Yes, she is.
Carrie Paris was in town. She was at Soultopia this weekend. We had a wonderful time this past weekend. She did her charm casting. She does all kinds of stuff, but that's what she did this weekend. And Megan came.
Great class.
And we all went to dinner, and we had a wonderful time. And we were talking about the cards. And actually, she's going to be on the show, I think, on September 5th. Yeah. She's in the mountains right now, so it wasn't going to work out for today. So y'all can look forward to that. She's going to come on the podcast. But she was telling us, and this is something that we're about to talk to. We might as well talk about. Might as well jump right in.
Yeah, go for it, girl.
You plug in these numbers, and you know how with certain things, whatever it is, it could be in any area of life, that there's different ways of doing things. Okay, and sometimes it can get a little frustrating because you're told this is how you do it, and this is the right way to do it. And then somebody else says, no, this is the right way to do it. So astrology sometimes feels that way to me. I'll read stuff about astrology, and I'll be like, okay, well, the next thing I click on, they're saying something complete. They're saying, this one's saying, oh, it's a great time to have fun. And the next one's saying, you really need to go inside and just be introspective and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, wait, and then you just got to find who you really resonate with, who really makes sense to you, which one you jive with, right?
Right. I intuitively go with what works for you.
What works for you, because otherwise you kind of finally just, or at least I do, I go, forget it.
Right.
I kind of just, that's my inclination. I dig deeper for a while, and then I finally like, I'm not sure I trust this because there's so many different ways to do it. Instead of doing that, what I recommend is intuitively going with what works for you. That's kind of with these tarot cards, these birth cards, because what happens is there's some various ways to do it, and that's numerology. There are various ways, just like, there's new math, I guess. There's various ways to do numerology. And so when you plug in some of these numbers, back to Carrie Paris, we were having this conversation, and we thought that I was a certain card, 2 cards.
Right.
And then when she calculated it as per her method, we found out I was the 3 cards, and Megan, same as Megan. And actually, the 3 of us all have the same 3 cards.
Right.
So it was a little different than the one that the tarotschool.com came up with.
Right.
So you just have to kind of go with what. They weren't drastically different. Okay.
No, it was just including another number that might have been otherwise silent. And so it's just a different methodology. And I wrote down Carrie's website for that. It's mybirthcards.com.
Right.
And so you can go in there and look at that. And she is coming out, I believe, with a deck that is.
And she's adding more to that website.
Right.
You
so
are
it's
gonna
still
need to
kind of in
subscribe.
process.
Yeah. You do need to subscribe, but it doesn't cost anything. It's just you're giving your email. Okay. But she's a great person to give your email to. She's not going to drive you crazy with anything. And her stuff's very interesting.
Yeah.
Seriously. It's quality. So I have now put my email in like 4 times today because I looked a bunch of things up. But I just have to keep putting my email in.
Oh, how
So
funny.
it was interesting. So, but what happens is with it is she also has like your inner expression card, your outer expression. So what your inner, I'm thinking, she hasn't explained it yet, but your inner expression, the card that maybe expresses the inner you, and then maybe what you present to others, I'm thinking, I could be wrong, she can clarify this with us, and then your annual card, and that's the card for the year.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting because when I was looking through Mary's book, I was coming across a lot of the same stuff, which I hadn't touched on in a few years. It's not that you mean to be lazy or anything, but you get your rhythm and what really works for you. And it was like, oh, I'm like breaking it down into further detail, and that gets really exciting for me.
Yeah.
And Mary was saying that you have, so with your birth cards, typically you end up with 2 cards. There's only one set that has 3, according to the Tarot School. But Carrie's is going to be different. She has a couple of them that have 3. And then even Mary's method had some other ones.
Just a couple, though, right?
Yeah.
Most of them have 2.
Yeah, most
Correct.
of them have 2. So you're going to take the numbers between the major arcana. So they're going to be numbers that fall between 0 and 21. And so if you're a Death Emperor, Death is 13, and then 1 + 3 = 4. So 4 is Emperor. That's how those pair together. The first number, the bigger number, would be your personality card. And then the smaller number is going to be your soul card. So your personality in this life is going to be that death card. So it's about new beginnings and regenerations and stuff. But your soul journey is going to be about leadership, that emperor, and that you're going to continue that throughout, your lifetimes. So that was kind of interesting. And then your year card would be your birthday plus your year, the year that you're in. And so like I calculated mine, and I'm in the year of my hangman. And so I was like,
interesting.
Oh, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
So not a lot of action, but it sure is looking at things from different perspectives.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So one of the simple ways I would think, if you want to know, just to calculate it, is you just take, let's just say your birth month, and even if it's like 02, just do double digits. So you'd like do the month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, 02, and then let's say, so February, and then let's say you were born on the 10th, then you do plus 10, and then you do plus 19, let's say, assuming you're born in the 1900s, and then plus 81.
Right. So are you calculating horizontally or vertically?
Well,
when
I'm
you're
doing
saying
it in my mind. I'm just doing it. You could.
Are you going horizontal?
Because that's how they showed it on the Tarot School.
Okay. And then
.com.
another way to do it then is to go vertically. And I've seen it both with in digits of 2. So you would stack those numbers and then have the 19 above the 81. But I've also seen it where you would do 0, 2 on top of 10 and then on top of 1981. A lot of times you're going to come out with similar numbers.
Right.
I mean, or with the same thing. Sometimes it does come out different, and that's why you have to decide, okay, what's going to be my vibe.
Yeah.
There was one interesting website that I discovered too that I had not seen before, and I was like, oh, this is new, but it turned out to not be obviously that new. It's called Labyrinthos.
Saw that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's a beautiful website. Really, really beautifully done. It's connected to a lot of magazines. It definitely had a lot of PR on there, the Today Show and stuff. But they had very simple, 3-word definitions. But really good information, and definitely one to check out and plug into if that's, where your interest lies.
So what you would do is if you get that number, let's say you came out, once you add that up, if you add it up and let's say you got, the number, throw out a number, a double-digit number. Double-digit number at me.
12.
Okay, so you got the number 12. So that's the what card?
Hangman.
That's the hangman. You're in. So that's the hangman card. So that would be one of your cards. Then you would reduce that. You take 1 plus 2, and you reduce that to a 3, which then is the Empress card.
Right.
Right? Okay, so you would be hangman, Empress, as long as I'm doing that correctly in my head, right? Okay. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's just numerology. So you're just reducing it down. Now, if you come up with a 6, you can't reduce that down.
Right.
Okay, so that's your number.
Right, and that would be both your personality and your soul card, and that so that would be you'd be on kind of a duplicate path.
Now, I think in some of the systems, if you come out with a 22, that's the Fool, because the Fool sometimes is that's the 0 in Tarot, and she can flip and then be the number 22.
Right, so you would be an Emperor and a Fool.
Right.
And I'm
Full Emperor, yeah.
Yeah,
right?
full Emperor.
And I'm not sure which system does that, but because
Mary had that in hers, yeah.
Right. But is that, I think we made that simple?
I think Carrie does that too.
I think so.
Is okay. It can get a little complicated, but you don't really, basically you don't want to immediately reduce it to a single number if it's 22 or under, especially if it's 21 or under. You don't want to immediately, because I was having some people do it at my store today, and they were immediately reducing it to a single number, and I was like, wait, first look and see if it's 22 or let's say 21 or under, because that's one of the cards.
Right.
So you want to hang on to that card, and then you'll be like, let's say, a 12/3.
Right.
Okay, so you don't immediately reduce it.
So would you recommend just going, because I did when you mentioned it, go to the website and put mine in, and it just spits out a couple of cards for
exactly.
me. Is that the easiest way to do that,
That's
rather
the
than to go through the edition and everything?
Yes.
Right. But we started this prior to the internet, so.
Right, of course.
Some people like to go, to figure it out. They
Right,
just want the real numbers people, so they love seeing how all the numbers, that number connects to this number, the synchronicity. But yeah, most of us, I'm going to go straight to the internet and see what it spits. So what'd you get?
I got the Hangman Empress.
Oh,
Okay.
So.
That must have been why I said that number. So.
I know, it was odd when you came up with it, because I was like, that's exactly what I just got.
What does she do for a living?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So what does the Hangman Empress mean to you?
Okay, so if you look at both of those together, and when I do birth cards, I use the universal weight, which of course I didn't bring today, but that tends to be my go-to, because that's the deck that most people know. And on the Tarot School, that is the deck they use.
Right.
And so the Hangman Empress, this is one of Matt's gifts then, is going to be his ability to look at things from a different perspective. And it's like being able to step into someone else's shoes and see things from their viewpoint. And that's one of the strengths of the Hangman. where it gets kind of difficult for him is that reverse of the hangman, which can connect with the idea of sacrifice. And the hangman, I mean, it sounds terrible, but if you've ever seen the card, the guy really looks enlightened on it. And so
it comes from the idea of Odin.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's Odin who's hanging on the tree to gain enlightenment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a very spiritual image, and it is about spiritual growth. And I always, for me, trees represent family. So I always generally think most of that sacrifice is coming in on family situations, you know, in the people that you're closest to. And then that pairs with the Empress. And to me, I feel like the Empress is a little bit juicier because I'm so visually oriented. The more that's in a picture, the more I pull out of it.
Right.
And so, you know, the Empress is the ruler. She's above all our queens. And so there's a real gift for leadership, but in a way that she doesn't have to lead by example. She can sit back and actually just kind of guide people on what they need to do. And it's like, and she's so graceful about it.
Right.
And she connects with productivity, which is huge for her. So, like, if there's
And creativity.
Yeah. If there's times in your life where you feel like you're being unproductive or you can't get off the couch, that's going to be stressful, you know? Yeah. So, and again, her crown to me brings in spirituality, the idea of bringing in a full harvest, like with Mother Earth, and so that you want to continue to grow and be challenged in life. But I also find comfort's really important for her. So it doesn't matter how good looking a sofa is. If it's not comfortable, you're not going to buy it. As well
That's
as,
absolutely fair.
Yeah. And I think luxury is important for the Empress. It's not so much about quantity, but more about quality. And she tends to invest in, you know, so if electronics is your thing, that might be where you save up to splurge on. Or it could be, you know, that it's one special thing that's really important to a person that might not make sense to anybody else why you feel need to spend money on that, but that's the Empress, you know. It makes sense to her.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on it? Sorry.
I think you did a great job.
That's
my thought on it. Yeah. That's I have nothing to add. That was great.
Oh, okay.
No, you did. I think that one of the things we were going to say is there's quite a few combinations.
Yeah.
So we can't go through them all today. So that's what we were going to do is go through a couple of combinations.
Right.
And so do you want to go through a couple more combinations and then do our crystals? And how are we on time, Matt?
Yeah.
I think you've got plenty of time. Let me actually check here. Yeah, you've got about 10 minutes. You're fine.
Well, you know, one of the things that I find interesting, let's talk about a sun wheel magician, since that's what we both are. And one thing I've noticed in my readings, I hardly ever see wheel magicians. They come in very rarely, and my husband.
That's what she said to me when I came in.
Yeah.
She was like, "I never see any. Well, I rarely see wheel magicians." And I was like, "Is that there aren't very many, or they just don't come for readings?"
Yeah, I think they don't need it as much. My husband's one, and he never gets a reading.
Yeah.
So,
so that's exactly what you told me when I came in. You were like, "I rarely see wheel magicians."
Yeah, it's just interesting. But sun wheel magicians, I see a lot.
Yeah.
And
So it just depends, because that's where we go to. Who am I really? Because,
right.
yeah.
What do you connect with more?
So tell us what a wheel magician would be.
Well, the wheel is about the ups and downs of life. And I always think, well, you know, most people kind of go up and down like this. Well, wheel people, I think of it more as like a Ferris wheel. It's like, woo, you know, they're riding the waves. And I was kind of fascinated to discover that I was a sun wheel magician, because I literally remember in my 20s thinking, okay, I made it. Everything's good. Oh man, that means something is going to go wrong. Like, I never trusted the good times to last. And I could just watch it like Jenga. It'd be like pulling out a piece here and a piece there, and you're just waiting for everything to collapse. And then you get down to the bottom and you're kind of in that pit of despair in life, and you're like, okay, I'm the only one who can get myself out of this. I have to behave. I have to be good. I have to do the right things. And so I would just take the discipline and start climbing my way back out until finally everything was good again.
So how's that without the sun in there? What's the difference?
To me, the sun radiates that warmth and joy. I mean, the sun is all about fun.
Right.
And I will say, if you're not fun, I might kind of ditch you.
Yeah.
You know,
So I guess I'm that.
yeah, no, you're always fun.
So it's funny because I would say the wheel magicians, the reason you don't see them a lot too is because magicians have everything they need to manifest what they want. I believe.
That's true.
They maybe not always know it, but they do. They're the great manifestors. And I always, literally in the Rider-Waite cards, they have all of the elements. That's the suits, the 4 suits, the minor arcana. We're dealing with major arcanas when we deal with our birth cards.
Correct, yes.
Okay? So they're the minor arcanas, and they have all the elements. They have everything they need to manifest what they want in their life. And so they're just going to work their magic, do their thing. Sometimes it's called the alchemist card, and they're going to make things happen in their life. So they can really, I think, ride those ups and downs. They almost maybe thrive on them a little bit.
Right.
Okay, they kind of, would you agree with that? That's probably why you don't see them that much. Because they know the way to get themselves out of a situation, and then they're waiting for the next wave to catch it. They're waiting for that perfect wave, and they're going to catch it, and they're going to ride it.
Well, and I think of magicians as being project starters. So they're starters,
Visionaries.
not great finishers though. But
they're not right. But when you add in the sun, I do think that helps you finish.
Oh yeah, because it's such a high number. It's a 19.
Yeah, so that helps you finish. But these, without it, they're great visionaries. That's what I would say. Once you add in the sun, they're going to finish.
Well, and I also think the sun brings in, a little bit of risk taking, because traditionally it's got a little child riding naked on naked and bareback on a horse, and it's like not everybody's going to do that. And so sun people take risk, generally out of innocence, but in a way to have fun that a lot of other people wouldn't. And it's traditionally got a brick wall in the background. And so there's the sense that other people might come in and put boundaries down when they're little, and they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to jump over that boundary. And then the older they get, they find they build their own boundaries to kind of create stability.
Right.
And also in those cards, it brings in the different dynamics of social action, because the wheel isn't really about a person. It's about, kind of, yeah.
In a way. Destiny, fate.
Right. Yeah. The magician is alone time, and then the sun is the dynamic of close, intimate relationships. Whereas the wheel has all these other things going on in there, and so that also connects in like large social groups.
But I do see, it's interesting, you were talking about the sun traditionally has the child riding, and that child's like, hands are up. And I wrote this on somebody, it was Ethany's, and she was like, what do you think about that child? And it looks like a piece of bacon flying out because it's some ribbon.
Oh, yeah.
She called it a long piece of bacon. And I was like, that day, what I saw from it that I had really never seen before is like total abandon. It's like, I'm on the roller coaster, and look, Mom, my hands are up.
Yep.
I'm not holding on. Look. Bring it, bring life. And that's what the sun does. But it's interesting how you were talking about the roller coaster of the wheel, too. Yeah. And then you throw all those together, and you've got those, I must say, we're pretty dynamic people. Yeah, they really are pretty dynamic people. And so when you throw in the sun, that is people who are going to get things done, and they're going to come up with a lot of ideas, and you're typically going to implement them and carry them through. And other people are wondering, well, why did they do that when I had that idea and I couldn't do that? And I didn't do that. I had that idea and I didn't do that.
Right.
It comes up a lot in my life. I know they'll be like, well, I had that. Why is she doing that? It's just get off your rear and do it. I mean, a lot of times. Right. And I think some wheel magicians do that.
Yeah. We're definitely instigators. But I always look, as in our birth cards, we carry both the strength and the weakness of the card. And so, I read reversals in my readings, but with the birth cards, I talk about both the direct and the reverse meaning, because we're always overcoming the same challenges in life.
And I'd say sun wheel magicians would have quite a few, especially I would think even wheel magicians would have, because of the ups and downs.
Yeah. I think wheel magicians, they're very, I kind of feel bad for them because they don't have the sun there to, pick them back up.
Make them happy.
But I also think the sun, if one isn't sunny, one is gloomy. And so you can also get kind of a double whammy of depression with the sun and the wheel if you're, in those reverse days. So that can also be kind of intense.
Sure.
And tell me about this deck that you have out.
Okay. So I love this deck. Chiro Marchetti put on, whom I'm just going to tell you guys, I met again through Megan. Megan let me say this. These are it's called the retrospective deck. And I got it because he said he only had a few left. I love it. It's got the silver border. And I think I put the card deck on the ground, but it comes signed with a little silk cloth with it. It's some of his favorite cards from all of his decks, and he's prolific with his decks. He has a lot of decks. And Megan, you're not in here.
That's okay.
But it's a huge big deal that she is actually in one of his decks. She's in his Legacy of the Divine deck. She is his Queen of Cups. So Megan was his muse for one of his decks. We speculate, he may correct us, but we speculate that he's used muses like Charlize Theron, right? You think, and some other people. It looks like it anyway. So a lot of people speculate who the muses are. Right. I know in his deck coming out, his daughter, who's beautiful, Sasha, she's the Queen of Swords. But Megan was the Queen of Cups in his deck, and we sell that deck in the store all the time. It sells like crazy. So these are some of his favorite. Actually, you may be in there. I haven't looked at the Queen of Cups, so you may be. I don't know. I didn't bring them. So I just brought the majors, and they're aren't they pretty? I mean, he picked some of his favorites. We'll have to look at that later. So I just brought them just to show some of the beautiful cards of his.
And if you're not watching, he's integrated them. So he's done a lot of decks.
Oh, yes.
So the backgrounds blend in. So everything kind of ties back together. So it's not like it doesn't flow like a deck. It all connects.
Oh, it does. Yeah. He's an artist. He is a true artist. What do you let's see. Did you have anybody's birthday that we could do just really quickly and look it up and just before we I think I did. Let me just look really fast and then we'll move on to our
Do you have someone online from Facebook?
Yeah, but I don't want to play it and then mess up everything. They're on here. Here's a comment. Let's see. Okay, so there's somebody as Mina.
Okay.
She didn't give us our dates. So, yeah, I think I'm playing myself on here, so.
Okay, yeah, it's like,
we got to
move that from the speaker.
We have, thanks.
Or the mic.
Sorry, you guys. We have to have dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's, since we don't have somebody's birthday specifically to look up, you guys can go and look these up online. We've given you some websites to look at or how to calculate. And you'll probably be expecting them next time at your next reading, or you can bring that in and, just know ahead of time who you are or what your birth cards are, because you can always pay attention to those in your reading. So particularly your larger number, the double-digit number, can only show up once in your reading. But if you're like a 2, there's going to be 5 2s in a deck. Right. So the smaller number can show up many times. And that's just something to take note of in your own reading, because you're like, okay, yep, that's my numerology number, and I need to focus on that. So let's talk about your crystal for today.
I was going to say one more thing. Mm-hmm. Also, it doesn't always just have to apply to readings. If you want to just look up your cards, you can just think, okay, these are my birth cards. These are my cards in general. Mm-hmm. How do these cards, look up the meaning of the cards. If you can't go get a reading, should go get a reading from one of us. Preferably.
Yeah, Michelle's fabulous too.
But if you can't, look at them and kind of just look at those key words and see, what does this mean? Because as Megan said, this is how I tend to apply things in my life, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's how we kind of chose our herb and our crystal today.
Yep.
Is what reference point do I kind of draw from, just in general, as Michelle or as Matt or as Megan? What did we kind of draw from to apply everything else in our life? So how would we apply a reading that we receive? How would we apply, if we go or starting school? how are we going to handle that situation when we walk into a new classroom, right?
Right.
Those birth cards could help us, to look at that. It could help the teachers to know about their students, actually.
Oh, incredibly.
Do you know, I know a pediatrician. She's from Venezuela. I'm not sure if she's still practicing, but she was in the Highland Park, University Park area, and she used cards.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because that is not uncommon over in Venezuela. She used cards. With her practice. She's a very good and very well-respected pediatrician, and she was in a lot of classes years ago that I had for Terrell.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people could use those birth cards. Maybe don't tell everybody you're doing it, but you could get a lot of information.
Yeah.
About how they're going to approach things.
Well,
right?
especially if you're dealing with a sick kid that you can't figure out.
Yeah, totally.
So.
All right, so what I brought is Labradorite. So I kind of struggled with this. I struggled with what crystal helps me apply things in my life. Okay, that was my task. Okay, so that's pretty broad.
I had the same struggle. I'm glad to know it wasn't easy.
And guess who came up with that? Me. Okay, so that was great. I was like, who came up with that topic? So what crystals help us apply things in our life and kind of help us know how we apply things in our life? And so I came up with Labradorite, and it's one of my favorite crystals, and it's one of the most popular ones in our store. If you see, it almost looks like, and if you're not watching, I'll describe what it looks like. It looks like oil and water. When you're outside, if you go on like black tarmac, and you'll see like the rainbow of colors of like oil and water mixed together, that's called a Schiller effect.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that's called. And these crystals have what's called a Schiller effect. And I'm going to call them crystals just for short, because we're not doing a crystal class, a science class today. Okay. But they come in they're going to have a gray background. I tend to like the blues, so I picked this one to show. They'll have blues in them and grays. They'll have greens. They'll have yellows. A lot of people are more drawn to the yellows and golds.
Oh, interesting.
I'm drawn to the blues.
Yeah.
And they are absolutely beautiful, and they're known as a shaman stone. They're known as a stone of transformation. They're known as a magic stone. They're known because look at them. I mean, if you just, Labradorite is the name of it. Okay, Labradorite. And it has so much movement in it. So if you're just listening, look one up and go, Google it and go to images, and you'll find all different pictures. And just by looking at them, you can see all kinds of messages in them. It's almost like you can scribe with them and look at different messages. And so it can help you kind of know, how do you apply things in your life? Because many people will get these and use them to scry, okay? Not as much as like obsidian, which is just plain black glass, but they'll just say, oh, well, look what I see here. Look what I see. They'll see pictures. They'll see all kinds of things. But it's a stone of transformation. It's a stone to help you take things in your life and apply them. Also, to kind of bridge the worlds, to bridge the earthly realms with the spiritual realms. Okay? Also, there is a little interesting tidbit, is that I was looking up, I channel bracelets, beaded bracelets for like all kinds of things, for health, animal totems. It's a big thing we sell at Soultopia. And I'm channeling a new goddess. And I was looking at what some other people had done. I try to not do what they've done. But it's just interesting. And a girl had written on the Google, the Google. It proves you can't believe everything you read on the Google, because she had written that, for this particular goddess, you have to have rainbow moonstone and Labradorite. They're the same. She said it has to be these two crystals, rainbow moonstone and Labradorite.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, sweetie, do a little more research. They're the same. Same thing. Okay, so but they are very much similar in the way they look to moonstone and to sunstone. They'll have that same kind of effect. A lot of times with other crystals, they'll call it, besides Schiller effect, they'll call it like chatoyancy. It's just that little extra shiny something.
I would
you know?
say like iridescent.
That's
if I didn't
another
know an appropriate word. So it kind of looks green, and then you move it, and you're like, oh, there's like blue in there.
Yeah,
and
this one really.
You get real excited when you look at them. But you also they're better kind of moving, or if you set them up properly, so when you walk in, you see the light hitting on them. Because otherwise, it just kind of looks like a shiny green and black. Yeah, green, gray, black stone.
Yeah, it does.
So.
They're very, but because for some reason people are really drawn to them because of the just kind of the magic that they have with them.
Yeah.
And again, very much shaman stone, very much used in shaman work.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have?
Okay, so I had to reach really far on my connection.
It's really hard.
I picked garlic for today, and part of the reason why is because to apply ourselves in the world, we have to be in good health. And one of the ways that we celebrate our health is eating with each other. And because, we come together to eat, whether it's a family or a social event, but it's generally, thriving around food. And so for me, there is no meal without garlic. And I am a heavy garlic eater. I rarely get mosquito bites, and I think that's probably why is that I generally don't smell good to the mosquitoes.
So you smell good.
Yeah, no, I layer on my fragrances. So garlic is kind of it's one of these cure-all things, and so it's got like 33 phytochemicals and nutrients to it. So
really?
I mean, yeah, it's fully jam-packed full of goodness. But it's going to detoxify the body, and it enhances the immune function. So you're running across, again, it being like a natural blood thinner, so you kind of got to watch for that, but it's going to be good for circulation. And it also is going to balance out your blood sugar levels. So that can be good if you're trying to kick the habit of dessert. It means you have to load up on your Italian pasta instead. But they've used it in all kinds of treatments. And one of the things that was interesting about it is that like it dates way back. It's written in the Bible. It was in old Hebrew literature. They've found it in Babylonian stuff, in Greek and Roman civilizations, ancient Egyptians, Vikings, and the Phoenicians. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. They even used it during the plague. So one of the things that people don't realize is garlic is great for like fighting the flu and flu-like symptoms as well. And so they've used it in the 19th century for treating tuberculosis. And it's also been noted to be very similar to penicillin. And they've done studies with that more recently in Russia. But one of a few of the things it does, let's see, deals with, it's great for arthritis, asthma, cancer, circulatory problems, colds and flu, digestive problems, heart disorders, insomnia, liver disease, ulcers, and yeast infections.
What?
Yeah, so it's going to help things heal much more quickly. So even if you're taking an antibiotic, I would still load up on the garlic. And you can take, it comes in pill form. You can get a odorless kind, or you can get kyolic, which is an aged garlic, and that's supposed to be a little more potent. And I really wasn't kidding about it kind of chasing the bugs away. Actually, so if you use an organic gardening program or pest control program, they literally put out garlic. And I opened my door after looking up garlic today, and I was like, whoa. My neighbor clearly had EcoSafe come by today because there was like,
oh, wow.
The whole neighborhood reaked of garlic. But it really chases the bugs away. So it's it's super effective.
I wonder if it chases people away, because you know what I did when I was at A&M, I dated this guy, and I tried to cook my mom's lasagna, and so it called for garlic, and so I got the picture's not up there, but I got the bulb, and I was supposed to put in a what?
A clove.
A clove of garlic. I put the whole bulb in the lasagna. And
That's
let's
a common
just say,
new cooking flaw.
Yeah.
well, yeah, he didn't like me very much, but he ate all of the lasagna.
Yeah.
But I put the whole thing. I didn't know. You need to teach. People need to teach that.
I had another friend do that too. But,
Like,
hey.
I didn't have who's just. But maybe, it's to chase away the.
Well, I used to work in
or
a
maybe
Greek
he was going to
restaurant,
ward
so-
me away. I don't know. So, but I wonder if that's where they get that whole warding off evil, because people use it for that.
Yes, and that might be part of it, because it really, in some of the historical texts, it is geared towards warding away any dysfunctions of the body. And so,
It makes sense.
it
Yeah.
probably was very much a magical term.
They tie that together, kind of like with the Labradorite. They
Yep.
ended up tying together, and we didn't even mean that to ever talk about that. That's
Yeah.
synchronicity. So, thanks.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today and for being a Third Eye Thinker. You can find us on Facebook, on Tarot Dallas, on Soultopia, and also on RNCN. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.